right, this will be a video for page 110 in the 8th grade math book. In this section, we are using slope and y-intercept and graphing equations. There's only 3 graphs we're going to make here. So we have 2 things, slope and y-intercept, we need to focus on here. So these are all in the form, well, it's called slope intercept form. And slope intercept form is in the form y equals mx plus b. This m is slope. It's rise over run. It's the y change. It's the up or down. As a fraction, the y change goes on the top, and the x change, that's the left and right, goes on the bottom of this fraction. So it'll be a fraction, it'll be a number, and if it's a whole number, then the x change is 1. So, because it'd be just a number over 1, which would be simplified to just that, the numerator. We also have in this standard slope-intercept form, we have a y-intercept, also known as the initial value. Now the word initial, that means the starting, that means the beginning. If I ask you what your initials are, you're going to take your first letters of your first name and your first letter of your last name. So like mine would be A. Those are my initials. Those are the beginning letters. So let's see. When I say beginning, I say the word beginning, the word initial, that's where we start. So we're going to look at this equation here. This equation is y equals 1/2 x minus 3. And we need to find out, where do we begin? What is our initial thing we need to do? What is the first thing we need to do? Well, we need to find what b is, okay? And this b in this equation is a negative, okay? So that negative comes with it. And this tells us where at on our y-axis we need to start. We need to begin. We need to begin at -3. So I'm going to look at this graph, and I'm going to find -3 on the y-axis. This is our y-axis, the up and down one. And on this specific line, I'm going to find -3, and I'm going to put a point. That is where we start. That is where we begin. Then we need to look at our slope. Let me go back to my red color. Our slope here is the number that's in front of the x. It's always in front of x. And if there's no number there, well, then it's 1/1 because it's 1x. Okay. But in this case, there is a number. That slope is right here. So it's rise over run. It's y change. I'm going to make a little triangle because that's a symbol that means change over the x change. The y change is 1, which means we're going to go up 1. Up because it's positive, and 1 because it's the number 1. And then our x change, our left and right, is 2. So we're going to go up 1 to the right 2. And to the right because it's positive. If this was a -2, we'd be going to the left. Because on our graph, the negatives go to the left, positives go to the right. The positives are up, the negatives are down. So we have a +1 in our y. So what I'm going to do, I'm starting at our point that at our beginning value, our initial value. I'm going to go up 1, and then I'm going to go to the right by 2, and I'm going to put a point. And I'm going to keep doing this over and over and over again. Up 1 to the right 2. Up 1 to the right 2. And notice my line kind of stops at the y-axis, but it technically keeps going forever. So I'm going to do like the opposite. I'm going to go -1 and -2, which equals 1/2. So I'm going to go down 1 and left 2, which is the same thing as up 1 and to the right 2. So I'm going to do it again, just keep our pattern going, and I should have all of these points. And I would expect to see all of these points on your line. And so let's see, let's go ahead and connect our dots. I get my ruler out. I'd encourage you guys to maybe use a ruler or something straight, maybe a folder, post-it note, stack or something. This is what our line should look like. And now we need to fill in these 2 blanks. We already figured them out. Our slope was 1/2. And our y-intercept was -3. And that's that for number 1. So we started at our beginning value, which was -3, and then went up 1 to the right 2, up 1 to the right 2. Number 2, we have the equation y equals negative 3x plus 2. Our starting value, our initial value is right here. So I need to put a dot on the y-axis at the number 2. My slope in this case, it just has a negative 3. But do note that there is, this as written as a fraction, this is negative 3 over 1. So I'm going to put this little 1 right here. I'm going to put this 1 here so that I know this is negative 3 wholes. Negative 3 over 1. Negative 3 over 1 equals negative 3. Okay, so we just put that 1 there so we know we're going to the right by 1 every time. So starting at 2, we're going to go down 3 because our y change over our x change, that's negative 3 and 1. Our y change is negative, so I need to go down by 3. So down 1, 2, 3. And then the 1 is positive, so I'm going to the right. I need to put a point right there. I'm going to do that again. Down 1, 2, 3, to the right 1. And I can't fit another one here, but I am going to go the opposite direction up here. I'm going to go up 3 into the left 1. And I'm going to connect all 4 of these points with my straight edge ruler once more. And then we should have a good graph of this line. There really are only 2 steps for this. It's to figure out where you start and follow your slope. And I'm going to even put this negative 3 over 1 as a fraction so that I remember it's rise over run. It's my negative 3 over to the right 1. The next one, a friend gives you 2 baseball cards for your birthday. Afterward, you begin collecting them. You buy the same number of cards each week. The equation y equals 4x plus 2 describes the number of cards y you have after x weeks. So they gave us an equation already. Our starting value, our initial value is right here, 2. And if I were to ask you, well, why is there a 2 right there? What does that mean? When we go back to our problem, a friend gives you 2 baseball cards. Well, that's our initial value. That's our beginning value. We started with 2. We started with 2 cards. Then every week, so every 1 week, we got 4 new cards. We got 4 new cards in the week 1. We got 4 more cards week 2. 4 more cards week 3. Okay. So our starting value, let's see. Find and interpret the slope and y-intercept. So slope is m. M equals 4. And interpret, we get 4 cards each week. Okay, so find and interpret the slope and y-intercept of the line that represents the equation, the situation. Graph that using this graph in a moment. So our m was 4 because we get 4 each week. Every week we get 4 more, 4 more, 4 more, 4 more. So it's going to go up by 4 every one. We're going up 4 every 1 week. In the next part, our y-intercept is 2. We started with 2 cards. So our starting value, we're starting at 2. We're going to go up 4. Notice this is counting by 2s. The bottom one is only counting by 1s. Our x-axis is by 1s, our y is by 2s. So we're going to go up 4 cards for the first week. And after 1 week, okay, so after 1 week, we should have 6 cards. And that's true. And then I'm going to have 4 more cards in week 2. Should put me at 10. Let's see. Up 2, 4, and then over 1. And that's right. That puts me at 10. We'll go up 4 over 1. Up 4 over 1. Up 4 over 1. All right. B says discuss with which points on the line do not make sense. Because this is a line. These do connect. So let's go ahead and get my line tool. Line up our dots. Excuse me. Okay. Now remember our line does kind of go off into negative. It does go into infinity. Let's see. Discuss which points on the line do not make sense in this situation. So let's think. Does it make sense to have negative points? Can I have negative weeks? Like before this guy started giving me cards, and before I started with 2, before I started getting more cards, negative 1 week ago, did we have negative cards? That really doesn't really make sense, does it? So describe which points on the line don't make sense. Well, that would be 1. What about a half of a week? If I went 1/2, is it true that I have 5 cards? Or what it would be, 6 cards. In a half of a week, should I have 6 cards? Is he giving me one every 7/4 days? It doesn't really work either. So like, it seems like at the end of the week, I buy 4 cards. At the end of the week, I buy 4 cards. But like halfway through the week, I haven't bought 2 cards. It's not like I'm buying one every day and a half. So let's see. The negative weeks don't make sense. Also, the fractions of weeks. Also, I already said also, didn't I? Don't make sense. The reasoning is, I mean, I can say the reasoning. Let's see. So it doesn't make sense that we have negative weeks. That just doesn't. We don't go back in time and get negative cards. It has to be positive and whole numbers of weeks. I think that explains it. I think that covers it. It has to be a positive and has to be whole numbers of weeks if we're going to use this equation. It really doesn't make sense to say in 2.5 weeks I have 10 cards. It just doesn't really work. I think it'd be 9. Number 4. Why might someone choose to use the y-intercept and slope the y-intercept and slope to graph a line? So my question would be, if we compare this to how we did it before, where we had x, y, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, okay? And we had to do, like, order of operations, we had to do math to plug these numbers in to figure out what y equals in those equations. Compared to how we just did it, where we started here and did this. We started here on 2 and did down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. Now, in my opinion, this way is so much faster. I truly believe that. I don't have to do 1/2 times -2 minus 3. So I do 1/2 of -2 is -1, minus 3 is -4. Okay, so like at -2, we should be at -4, and we are. We are at -4, but that only gives us 1 point, and then you got to do this 5 times. When I really truly believe that we did this one so much faster than the last lesson. And if you look at our timestamp here, we're probably half the amount of time that section 3 or 4-1 took on this video. So why might someone choose this? Well, this method is much faster. And it's not always faster, I'd say. But when given an equation in slope intercept form. How about the starting value, or the initial value and slope are given to you? I mean, it's so much quicker. I mean, I would say it's easier myself. It's certainly a lot less work. Like this over here, this is a lot of work. And sometimes it's the only way to do it. But if we are given an equation that's in this form, y equals mx plus b, y equals mx plus b, then this graph, you just start at this b and you follow this m. You start at this b and you follow this m. And you really only need 2 points. On this one, you need technically, if you know that it's a line, then you probably only need 2 points too, but it's not always going to be clear if it's a line. So like if I say y equals how about 3y equals 2x minus 4? I know this is a line, but in this case, I'd have to do some algebra, or I could just plug in and then, I don't know. There's definitely some examples where this method is your best option. But I think if they give it to you in slope-intercept form, like this, like this one, then this is a really quick way to graph.